Welcome to another edition of the Bharatvaarta Weekly. I'm Roshan Cariappa. I have with me Nirav Kanodra to run you through the news and events of the week that was. And it's been quite an eventful week. Let's move on to the first piece of news for today. Last week, the Indian government imposed a ban on the export of non-basmati white rice. The ban comes as a result of the Ukraine-Russia war intensifying. Moscow has called off the grain deal. The deal that allowed Ukraine to export grains. Russia claimed Ukraine has been misusing this deal. Earlier, the Indian government had also banned the export of wheat and imposed a 20% tax on grain exports. This was to curb over exporting of grains and prevent a shortage in the domestic market. Nirav, this Russia war situation, continues to have an impact on, commodity prices, exports, and whatnot.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
What do you make of this?
I would say I think people are trying to extrapolate too much from the Russia-Ukraine war. So I think yes, one thing is that is wheat, right? And though some people use rice and wheat as substitutes, I think India is focused more on its own domestic economy. India produces rice about 120 tons a year. India consumes about 95 to 100 a year is domestic consumption, 20 is exports. About 40% of that is basmati, 60% is non-basmati. So about approximately you can say 10 million tons of basmati, 8 to 10 million tons of basmati rice is exported, and about 12 to 15 tons of non-basmati rice is exported. India's major trading partners in this is Bangladesh, Nepal, Malaysia, right? And also big rice importer is like Philippines, but Philippines mostly imports from Vietnam. So India, Thailand, and Vietnam are big rice exporters. Rice is a monsoon crop; it's a kharif crop. Bulk of the harvest will happen after the monsoons in September, so October, November. That's when the stock should hit, and so we will have like whole restocking, big amount of supplies coming in. This is an El Nino. We are starting in an El Nino cycle where probably rainfall will be less. We don't know yet. This year, what has happened is India's average rainfall is the same as previous years, but there's a spatial distribution. So there is a lot more. If you draw a center line through India, on the western part of India, there's a lot more rains, floods, etc. You see it in Delhi, you see it in Gujarat. You had like the big Biparjoy cyclone. So you've seen a lot more rainfall on the western part. But in like eastern UP, Bihar, Bengal, there's a lot less rainfall. And they are big rice growing areas as well. That is one thing. So what is India concerned about? That do we have enough for our domestic market? India is very concerned about like managing inflation domestically, and only the surplus, if any, should be exported. Again, basmati rice is premium rice. That if you export, that's fine. That's at a higher. They don't want the inflation to hit the lowest common denominator, like the average person on the street. The second thing is, last year, yes, we had similar like odd rainfall, lower wheat crop, rice crop also not great, but it was all average or like slightly below average. So we imposed a 20% duty on rice export. But India is quite a big rice exporter. So maybe this is up till the end of the monsoons. We see if the monsoon and monsoon crop is okay. This could be turned around. That we could again release. Second thing is they want to kind of prevent hoarding or prevent a few commodity trading companies to buy up and like store overseas and then sell. They are open to government deals. So that also some clarification has come out. See, India is very concerned about inflation. We are going into an election cycle within a year. There's an old saying in India: growth may not win you elections, but inflation could surely lose you one. So the government is well aware. So my read into this is external commentators. A lot of people are commenting this is due to Russia-Ukraine war and all of those things. It is just simply international rice prices are rising. India is worried about the monsoon, and India is worried about its own domestic food security. And if anything, like COVID has taught us, right? I think resilience is very important. That you need to focus on having your own food and supply chain security very much. And for all supply chains, you need to have parallel sources. So if maybe India has stopped, Thailand or Vietnam could export more. Maybe who knows? So maybe they make if they have a better crop or whatever. So I think if the crops are good, if there's enough procurement in the mandis, and like if the prices don't go up much, then India won't. India also has like a lot of buffer stock. I think 20-30% of our annual consumption we hold buffer stocks, and those will be utilized in case. We had drawn them down during COVID as well. We drew them down quite a bit when the wheat prices. So I think this is just proactive management, and we've got a global inflation issue, and so this part is India wants to insulate the common man, because you have like a two-level price clearing. First, all the domestic demand needs to be met, and any surplus should be exported, instead of you export out and react to international prices and then raising prices for everyone. I think that's what the government wants, and so we'll see that. If I were to use very technical terms, India is having a spatial distribution mismatch on rainfall as well as intertemporal. So, as per forecast, start of the season rainfall will be normal, but it will taper off, and we might have below average rainfall this year. So, tomato prices went up a lot. Tomato is a vegetable with a short crop cycle, which is about 2.5 to 3 months. So, earlier in April, May, tomato prices were too low, so lesser people planted, and now a big chunk was washed out due to floods in some parts. So that is why the prices have gone up a lot. I think went from like 25 rupees a kilo to 120 rupees a kilo, and now it's come back down again, like 60, 70. So again, this probably is going to be very temporary. I think we've got a lot better data, and like with better smartphone connectivity, I think now farmers who are growing some other vegetable or some other crops will say, okay, this cycle I can just boost tomatoes, right? I'll grow a little more tomatoes, and you've got a very quick, like it's a 3 month cycle, a quick reaction function. It's an all year round crop, so hopefully that gets sorted as well. So yes, I think you have to say, like, one good thing about like this government has been that instead of just giving handouts or earlier what had happened, if I were to compare UPA versus NDA government, so UPA government, when the prices rose, all they did was like raise prices for the farmers, and there was like a lot more inflation in the society. And this government has been a little bit proactive, managing a lot of multiple levers and trying to find a solution. High prices are good for the farmers but bad for the consumers, and in vote terms or whatever, I think everybody's a consumer, right? So kind of hits. So you need to have a balance, and they're trying to get that balance right. And this is there. I think the Western commentators are saying, "Oh, India's colluding with Russia or opportunistically doing something." I don't think so at all. These are just two things coincidentally happened at the same time. In a few places, maybe rice and wheat are direct substitutes, but if you see, we are going to have. So there are two these weather patterns: La Nina and El Nino. So La Nina, we have a lot more rainfall. That's a problem. El Nino is we have a lesser rainfall, and we are transitioning. So this probably sees a few more places where you could have crop yields a little bit lower. And if you are dependent on importing all your food, you are particularly vulnerable. And so I think everybody will start thinking about these things. And yes, so that's the thing. But I think hopefully, if monsoon is good, crops are good, this ban will be revoked by November, December, or something.
Right. And the ban is, to clarify, only on non-basmati rice, right? Which is
Yes,
anyway, I mean, not the highest.
about 60%. About 60% of the rice that we export. Basmati is the more premium one. So basmati prices going up is not going to have like an Aam Aadmi complain a lot, because they have a substitute which is a cheaper rice.
All right. Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe visited India on 21st July at the invitation of the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji. On this visit, the two countries adopted a vision document to deepen economic ties. The two countries discussed several issues from green energy to ports to research and development to infrastructure across several fields.